Okie doke. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. So, today I'm going to be drawing and painting a little cockatiel. These are a gorgeous little Australian bird. They are just a little parrot that lives up in the top end of Australia, and they are absolutely gorgeous little things. And I just really felt inspired to paint one of these little guys and draw one of these little guys for you. So, I'm going to start just by getting his basic shape in. So he's got a beautiful big crest. Actually, I've got to drop him down on the page a fraction. I've got him up too high on the page. Where's my eraser? There's my eraser. I'll drop him down a fraction on the page. So just down here a bit. So I'm just going to do his head and chest because it's really the crest on his head that I want to focus on. He's got such a beautiful little crest. Sort of like his bigger cousin, the cockatoo. He's a cockatiel, this one. But I thought this would be a fun little one to try and draw for you guys. So I'm just going to get the basic shapes in. So he's got a lovely little crest, and I'll do the details. I'm just roughing in sort of the general shapes. I've got to bring his head out to the front more, and I just adjust and readjust his proportions as I need to. Actually, I can actually make that up a bit more upright there. And then he's got his crest comes away from his head a little bit. Down here. And they've got a beautiful big red cheek on their face. They've got beautiful markings. That was one of the things that I wanted to try and paint for you guys, was their gorgeous little markings. So got beautiful big eyes. For a little bird, they've got gorgeous eyes. So I'll come around here. I'm going to try and do as much detail as I can. He's got a little pattern around here that comes down to his beak. Big nostrils. He's got quite big nostrils in comparison to his eyes. So, and these guys live up in the top part of Australia, up the northern parts. So they're wild up there, living in the bush. We get cockatoos. We get their bigger cousins come and stay down here on our farm. And the black cockies, we get, what do we get? We get red-bellied black cockatoos living here. Well, they migrate through. So I'm just going to do, he's got a hook beak because he's a parrot. And because, finches and the gentler sort of species have round beaks, little different, completely different beaks to these guys. I'm going to pop that's going to be the reflection on his eye. And these guys have got a big, the males have got a big red or orange cheek, like that. And then he's got rough little feathers that go down around the bottom of his neck. I'm just checking that my volume's working. Yep, my volume's working. That's always a good thing. I was adjusting my settings, and one should not adjust settings right before a stream because things can go horribly wrong. Okay, so I'm just going to draw his little chest because the bottom of him is grey, the top of him, and there's all different species of these, like there's slightly different varieties. I'm just going to add, I did the rough sort of shape of the feathers, but now I'm going to add the actual little bit of detail in the shaft of the feather there. I'm going to try and make this one quite a detailed piece. I've got to take the rough bits of these feathers up here. I'm changing the shape. As you can see, I'm slightly changing the shape of the feather to suit myself. It just looks better compositionally. Like that. He's got the shaft of the feather going up there. Then there's another little feather that's quite a thick one that goes up there, like that. Actually, I'm going to curl. Oh, nope. Don't like that. Made it too fat there. Got to thin it off. Hang on. I'm just going to erase that. These beautiful kneadable erasers. Hello, Shane. How you going, doll? How are you? How are you? So you've got to make that thinner to there, like that. That's a bit better. Let it come around like that. There we go. I filled the page with this bird. So how have you been, Shane? And I come around here, do this other little feather. There's one in there. I'm not quite sure. I think 1, 2, 3. He's got 4 cresty feathers. There we go. That will probably... I'll get rid of some of these internal lines where I've adjusted and readjusted. And I've got an error line there that I've got to get rid of. Right, that's him. Just about done. So, I'm good. How are you? I'm great, thanks, mate. I am very good. I've been very busy, very happy, and was very inspired to paint this little guy today. I'm going to give, and he's actually got little feathers that encroach on his little beak. There we go. Okay, that's basically his drawing, his outline done. So now I'm going to grab my watercolours, which I've pre-sprayed. I'll mix them here on this little palette so you can see my colours. And actually, I'm going to do the background first. I'm going to do the background, and I'm going to use, I've got a lovely Daniel Smith colour that I really like called Soda Light Genuine. It's one of the Primatech colours, and it is extremely beautiful and very dark. So I want a dark background because this little bird is quite light, and I want there to be a nice contrast. So I'll stick me, look at that for a beautiful colour. Oh my God. Okay, so that's the Primatech Soda Light. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wet the background with my clean brush and cut around the outline of the bird. I had a little tiny bit on my brush, but it's not the end of the world. So I'm just going to do the background first because I'll still and you'll see the magic happens with watercolour. It's so magical. Once you've wet the paper like this, it just flows. It has a life of its own. So you watch this. I drop the soda light in. I'll just take it, and it won't go anywhere that I haven't put the water. It'll only stay on the water area. So I pop that in there like that. Come down and around like that. Just love it, love it, love it. Down and around. Do I do the whole background? I don't know. Hello, Emily. How are you? Okay. So clean my brush again and take it down around his feathers on his head, leaving little gaps. And just wet there. Come down between that feather like that. And now I'm going to come down around. While the paper's wet, I've got a fair bit of movement, so which is good. Take that down and around like that. All right, drop the paint in, drop the Primatech in, like that. So this is Soda Light. All right, grab some more of that, a little bit more on my palette up there. I might do a couple of layers of this dark colour, just to help me give a nice little bit of contrast. So I'll just let that flow. It's magical stuff, watercolour. Okay, pop that in there like that. All right, I'm sort of happy with that. I need to make it a bit darker. Bit stronger. So what I'm going to do is get some more pure pigment, less water, pop it up the top of my palette here. While the paper's still wet, that'll flow around still. So I take that down and around like that, and just darken up the closest area to the bird, like that. Oops. So it's not as diluted, so it stands out that little bit more for me. Just a little bit more contrast. Daniel Smith's watercolours dry incredibly fast, I've noticed, on the palette. All right, come down and around, darken up that little bit there, darken up in between these crest feathers, like that. There we go. Come down around here. All right. And I'm into mixed media at the moment, so I do mix it up a little bit and add some different colours, like some different mediums. So I might even use a little bit of pen at the end. We'll see how the mop flops. All right. Down and around here. Like that. All right, I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to let that dry for a little bit. Clean my brush. Just going to scrub out that edge. I might actually take it to the edge a little bit over here, just the diluted, just over that way a little bit. Just makes it a bit more. Yeah, I'll do the whole background. I'll just make it pale. I won't do it a solid dark. That's what I love about watercolour, is you can really have good gradation, going from pale and sort of misty looking in the background to dark and strong at the foreground. And while that's still wet, I'll get more pigment and just get rid of that line that I've created around that edge, because that's thicker paint, so it won't leave a line once it's wet. It sort of helps to, because I had wetter paper, it had dried a little bit, so when it dries, if you put paint on dry paper, it'll end up with a sort of a stark line. So if you put it on wet paper or damp paper, you get slightly different effects. All right, I'm going to leave that alone. And now I'm going to go, because I've got to let that dry, I'm going to go to his cheek, and his cheek is orange, but I'm going to use Sennelier Red Orange, which I'll pop here for you. So I'll start with Sennelier Red Orange, but I'm going to, again, wet, I didn't clean my brush, wet the patch on his face. I've got to stay away from the blue around the outside, because if I get it on there while the paper's still wet, it will flow out onto it. Drop that in there, and then when I've got that covered in the orange paint, I'll go back in and drop some stronger pigment, so less water, more pigment, like that, onto that patch, and quite strong at the front. So even again, a little bit more thick pigment, less water, onto the front part. And I'll go over that with more detail in a minute. I'll let that dry a little bit now, and I'll move on to his eye. And for his eye, I make up my own browns, and my own darks. So I use burnt umber and ultramarine blue. Makes a beautiful natural browny grey. Rather than having a flat black, because you can get black, but I choose not to use it, as you know, I prefer to use blues, like my own mixed darks. So I use ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and see how that makes a really lovely dark. So that makes a lovely, lovely dark colour, and I go in with quite a diluted wash onto his eye and take that around. That'll dry a couple of tones lighter. Try and keep my hand out of the wet paint. All right, come around here. See how that's sort of, it's a little bit different. It's got darker at the top, a little bit lighter at the bottom. I'll let that dry like that. Once it's nearly dry, I'll add a darker inner pupil. I can actually even add some more blue to that, just to give it some variation. A little bit more blue, just to let that flow around, and that'll help to give that a little bit more of a natural look, less flat. It'll make it more deep, less flat. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now his blue-grey around his eyes. I might go with a violet. Might go Moonglow, actually. A bit of Moonglow. Moonglow's gorgeous, and that's a purpley grey. So I might try that. Try a bit of Moonglow. That's a purpley grey. So that's a Daniel Smith colour. And I'm going to take that diluted around his nostril. Whoops. Because actually, it's a bit too, I might add a little bit more blue to that just to soften it up. Because it's a little bit too, no, I won't do that. I'm just going to clean that out, start again. I can leave that on the paper, it doesn't matter. Not the end of the world. Grab a bit of blue. Bit of blue, like that. These little boy ones, like they're sort of like budgerigars. The boys have a blue nose. That's how you tell the difference. Boys have blue nostrils, and girls have pink. So boys are blue and girls are pink in the birdie world. How's the family there? Great, mate. Doing really good. Doing really good. Kids are, well, finishing up for the year now. Starting to with uni and work and all that sort of stuff. Only a week or so, or a couple of weeks, and it's Christmas. So which is a bit lovely. What about you? How's your family going, bud? How's mum? How's work? All right, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to get a little bit more of that. I'm using a little bit of turquoise. Little bit of turquoise. It's probably not quite the right colour, but sometimes you can have a bit of fun with colour. I have a hair in front of my face. There we go. Get rid of that. I tried to set up my face cam too today, but I'm not very good at technology and I couldn't get it to work. So hopefully next YouTube stream you'll see my face. But this one I couldn't get it working because I'm not that good. Right, so now I've got to ask my kids to help me. I'm going to pop a bit of red, or a bit of red orange it is, a bit of red orange into that lighter orange that I've put on there before. And I'm going to add some feather textures just over the top, just subtle, not go into a whole lot of fuss. Take that right round. And these guys, the top of their heads is all yellow pretty much, except for this. There's a little bit of grey on the back of his head, depending on the species, of course. Your mum's got a chest infection. Oh no, that's no good, doll. I'll give her a hug from me and tell her I hope she gets well soon. That's no good at all, doll. Alright, so pop some more feathery lines just down and around. Like that. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to go to work. The background is just about dry, but I'm still a little bit wary. I'm going to work on the bottom beak. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to make up a bit of a stronger. I'm going to go back to my Primatech colour, pop a bit of blue with it. Let's see what happens if I do that. I want to just darken up and maybe a bit of brown. We'll see what happens if I mix that with brown. So I'm going to go the Primatech, the Sodalite, mix it with brown and see if that makes it black. And it does! There you go, look at that. So the Sodalite brown mixed with blue, blue, brown, it's a bluey brown. Sorry, what am I talking about? It's a blue mixed with brown. I need to learn how to speak English, eh? Mixed with brown makes a lovely black. There you go, look at that. But it's not a flat black because you can see the blues sort of reflecting through it. There you go. And I'm going to take that around the outside in little dots as well. Okay, come down and around like that. There we go. That's the detail sort of in the eye, and I'll now add that same colour into the nostril, just into the front of the nostril. Oh, I like that grey. That worked really well. I like that grey a lot, I have to say. Righto, so now I'm actually going to use that same grey, just lots more water, and I'm going to take that onto the beak. So that's Sodalite added with brown. I'm staying away from the background because I still don't quite want it to touch, just in case. But you can see it's very diluted, so the more water you add, the paler the colour will be. That's the whole plan. More water, less colour, makes it paler. So you can get many, many variations of the one colour by adding more pigment or more water pure pigment is extremely dark and thick. So there's creamy consistencies, and they talk a lot about the watercolour wheel and, wet on dry, wet on wet. There's a whole plethora of mixtures to help you with your colours. All right. So I'm just going in with pure sodalite there, and I'm just going to darken up this part of the beak. I'm going to leave a highlight on the top of the beak, which is actually the reflection of the light on top. There we go. Got to come a bit closer to the edge, not quite to the edge, but a little bit closer. And I'll add a little bit more pure pigment down towards the tip of the beak, just to darken it up. Like that. I've added a bit more brown to that, just to make it a little bit more contrasty, a little bit darker. Like that. Come down and around here. Okay. There we go. Come right, I'm going to leave a little gap of light under there, but I'm going to come up close like that. Now I'm going to leave that alone for a minute. All right. And I'm going to go in with a lovely yellow now. I'm going to go in with my cadmium yellow. Bit of cadmium yellow. I'll clean out one of these palettes so you can see it. I'll clean out the orangey red one because that's the closest on the colour wheel. There we go. Bit of cadmium yellow. And I'm going to wet carefully her head, or his head. It's a boy. And then I'm going to drop the colour in, quite diluted. Take that around there, like that. Because the whole of their little faces is yellow. Put that in and around. If you're still there, Shane, does it seem okay on your computer? I see that I've got drop frames, and I'm not sure why or what it's doing to affect my computer, but I've got a few drop frames. So it doesn't look stuttery on my screen, but anything's possible with technology, yay. So I'm just wetting the paper all around. And then I'm going to drop the yellow in. Just be brave and drop it in and let it flow. I'll leave little snips of white. You don't want it solid, one hard big colour. And the water will dilute it out a little, like that. There we go. Cool. And I'll take that all around. Onto the cheek, under the face. Come down there like that. Alright, take that down and around. Beautiful. I'm happy with that. Come onto his face. Like that. Oh, he's looking lovely and vibrant. That's a gorgeous colour, I have to say. That cadmium yellow, love it. It's my Sennelier cadmium yellow. Make him stronger at the front. There we go. Righto, there you go. So that's basically him filled in at the front. And then he's got a dark grey, sort of blue-grey body. So I'm going to add a bit of cobalt blue. A little bit, maybe a little bit of mauve too, actually. A little bit of mauve. Because he's got quite a mauvey tint to him. So I'll dilute that right down as the first layer. Dilute that right down. Like that. Alright, cool. And then I can start to add darker blue greys. But I'm going to have to use something that's a little bit different to the colour that I had used. So I might go a little bit of Moonglow again. That's a lovely sort of purpley colour. A little bit of Moonglow. And take that around, let it flow. While the paper's still wet, that'll flow. Cut up into his little chest feathers a little bit, his neck feathers. So he's darker on this side. He's in shadow, more in shadow on this side. So I'll just start to add that now. Bring that down and around. Like that, in sort of feathery motions. It's not precise like feather detail, but while the paper's wet, I'll let it flow a little bit, and it creates a nice soft feathery effect. And I'm just taking that around onto there. Very diluted. Keep it soft. Want to keep it soft. Get a bit more on my palette. It's not quite travelling how I want it. There we go. Travel it like that. There we go. Come down onto his chest. Okay, cool. I'm happy with that. Got to really darken up here. Because he's very dark there. Oops, wrong colour. I'll dip my doodah in the wrong colour. Don't want to do that. There we go. And I can add a bit of blue. That'll make that darker if I want. Alright, take that down there. Because he is much darker down the front here. Alright, so now I'm going to add a bit of a warmer, stronger orange. Might even go a bit of quinacridone gold, you know. A bit of quinacridone. That's a bit greeny. What am I going to use here? I'm going to go a bit more of a darker orange. A bit more of a... What have I got there? What's that colour? Hang on. Maybe a bit of Venetian red. Use a bit of Venetian red. Let's see what that does. That's way too dark, but I can pop that on his cheek. That'd be nice on his cheek, just here. Just around this bit. Make a bit more water in it. Probably be a good idea. I'll take that around the darker parts of his little face decoration. Don't want it everywhere. There we go. Alright, clean my brush. Come back to his little face and go in with, what am I going to do? A bit, or maybe a bit of Naples yellow, or a bit of gold ochre. Bit of gold ochre. We'll try that. Let's have a look at the gold ochre. That's a nicer colour. That's a bit better. I can pop that on his little face. Just get it a bit more pure pigment. And take that. Yeah, that's a bit better. get it quite diluted, and darken up a few of these areas like this. There we go. Same up here. Creating a few little feathery lines like that. Coming down and around the back of his little eye. Around the front of his eye. We've got to get a little bit of three-dimensionalness going. And this is a Sennelier colour. This is the gold ochre. It's Sennelier. I'm using all different watercolours. I've got a mixture of Sennelier, Schmincke and Daniel Smith here that I'm using. I don't mind mixing and matching occasionally if they've got the colours that I like using. And my favourite blue is indigo, but I've run out. So I've actually ordered some more. And that's a Schmincke indigo. It's the most beautiful colour. So yeah, I can't wait for that to arrive. Hopefully that comes this week. We shall see. With males doing weird stuff here in Australia. Alright. A bit more up on the top. Got to get a bit more on my palette. And with just using the tip of my brush, I'm using silver black velvet brushes. Love them to pieces. They hold their edge, they hold their shape, but you can hold a lot of water in them. So they're a mixed natural fibre and synthetic, and they are lovely. Highly recommend them. Alright, coming down and around. Onto there. That one sort of disappears down into there. There we go. And he's actually got a little bit of grey on the back of his head, so I better pop that on. So I just re-wet the paint that's on my palette that I've already used on his chest. Pop that down in there. I've also got to get some stronger colour onto... Actually, I've got to do a stronger line. He's got a grey line going down his feathery bits. So I've got a bit of yellow in that. I don't like that. I'll get rid of that. I'm going to go back to my Moon Glow, pure Moon Glow, right there. I'm going to take that up the feather line because he's got the shaft of his feather. Goes up like that. And you can see the shaft in his feather. And you can see it from about there on that feather. Like that. And you can see I just dipped into a few different colours there just to mix it up. Like that. And like that. Alright, now I've got to add, he's got little sort of splayed feathers coming out down and around here. So I've just got to give these little feathery details. Just add some in there like that. There we go. It's coming along. Coming along nicely, I think. Now, go back to my Moon Glow. And I've got to darken up under his nostril and coming down to his beak. And if you use a lot of the similar colours, it does make the picture more, more unified. It does make it more pleasant to look at. If you use a very simple colour palette, like I've mainly used blues, yellows and orange, blue, yellow and orange. So that's a blue-grey background, blue-grey eye, yellow and orange on his head feathers. So yeah, you can stick to a limited palette. Really does help to unify a piece. If you go rogue and have too many colours going in every direction, the eye doesn't know where to rest. So try to stick to as simple an amount of colours as you can. Keep it simple on yourself, easy on yourself as well. Righto, let's have a look. Where are we at? I reckon I need to go in a bit darker. I'm going to grab, make up another grey, and I'm going to use, it's a blue grey. There we go. And I'm going to add a bit more blue to it. A bit more blue to it. There we go. So that was Payne's grey, and I've just added a bit of extra blue because he's got a feather line around here. And that's, so the paper's dry, so it's damp paint on dry paper. So it's not a soggy wet brush, but it's got water on it, and the paper's dry. So the paint won't flow. Just like that. I will also take a little bit of that same colour that I just used up onto his beak. Come down here. Now what's happened here? He's got, doesn't really have a greyish feather there. He's got that orangey colour. I'll use that orangey colour. So I'll go back into my orange, what is it? Gold ochre. Take that down under his chin because it is darker there, and create some feathery, just feather that out a little bit like that. And now I've got to add, I'm going to get a little bit more of that blue grey and take just around the edge of his eye like that. All right, I'm quite happy with that. I think I will add some more ochre like that down onto his face. You can see those feathers sort of coming around there a little bit. All right. Darken up around here, and he is just about done. Keep it simple, don't go to too much fuss. The white of the paper is the white reflections. I'm just going to grab a few little dots, drop a few little dots, and I'll use a bit of rose ultramarine. I'll pop that down here. A bit more of that rose ultramarine. It's a lovely colour, and I'm going to add a little bit of moon glow to it to see what happens. A bit more of moon glow to it. There we go. That's a lovely darker purple, slightly darker purple. And I'm going to add that to the, because he's got little sort of like feather paws. They're not feathers, but they're little paws on his beak, on his nose, around his nostrils. And he's also got them around his eyes. So I'll just gently add some of them around there. A little bit of that colour onto his beak. Just around there. And I'll blend out that edge. Looks amazing as always. Oh, thank you. I had a cockatiel for about 20 years. We did teach her to growl like a dog. It was funny, but I'm done with birds. That looks pretty cool. Thank you, Slee Stack. Thank you, mate. Yeah, I love painting birds. And I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you... Yeah, I had birds for a lot of years. They're a lot of work. A lot of work. So, yeah, I don't have them anymore. We've got lots of wild ones, though. So now I'm going to add a sneaky bit of white gouache. But we had, I had an aviary filled with finches and small birds. But, yeah, they're a lot of work. But, yeah, now we've just got wild ones everywhere. Parrots, cockatoos, you name it. We've got them everywhere. So I just bought bird baths and bird feed out. I've got all my old bird feeders out in the garden. So all the birds come in and live around the house, which is really lovely. So I'm just dropping a bit of gouache back into some little highlighty areas that I might pop a tiny little dot there as well on the back of his eye. And I reckon I'm going to sign that. I reckon it's done. What do you reckon? I reckon he's done. I'm going to sign it down here. It's just a very loose, simple, fun drawing that took me, about half an hour all up. So as long as you get your shapes right, you can pretty well go mad and do any colour. So now I'm just going to take off my edges because I love this bit where you take off the edges. It's my favourite bit. You get to the end and then you've got this beautiful clean line around the edge and it's like, woohoo! So, there you go. So thank you for hanging out. Thank you, Sleestack. It's awesome to see you. And thank you, Shane. As always, mate, you are a world of awesomeness. Give Mum a